Greetings viewers, EricTheCarGuy back again with Wyatt Swain, also known as Mr. TIG, here teaching me how to weld. How you doing, Wyatt?
Great.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Eric.
Now, you've got me all dressed up in this getup with all this different stuff. What is the purpose of having all this?
Well, these are the safety features. Now, of course, in TIG welding and any welding, you're going to get ultraviolet rays. Now, we're doing some pretty light-duty welding, so the rays aren't terribly bad. You still need to cover up. Now, we're in summertime, and I've just got a cotton shirt on. That'll protect me enough. I've given you some cotton sleeves, so if you can keep those up as much as possible, that way you won't get that sunburn on the inside of your arms.
Long ape-like arms.
Anyway, the gloves, they're a thin leather glove, and you can get them thinner than that. But I've also got you set up with a welding helmet, and I think you're adjusted at about a number 10 lens. So that's the normal start position.
Okay.
Now, once you start welding, you may want to adjust it either higher or lower, according to your eyes.
Okay.
Just keep in mind, we're holding the torch right here, like a pencil, and you'll probably notice this ground clamp right here.
Yeah, we kind of need that.
Well, we need to ground. Not only do we need to ground, but actually some of your better setups, you take the ground and grind it as close to where you're going to weld as possible.
Okay. So you having it over there on the table is obviously not as critical in this situation?
Well, we're just going to do a flat bead on plate, so we're going to get some grounding effect out of here.
Okay. So that should do for that part of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be adequate.
So when you were actually using the tool itself, I noticed that you were pushing it in this direction.
Yeah.
Can I pull it? Because to me it almost seems easier like if I'm dragging it along.
Let's look at that. When you first learn how to TIG weld, remember we talked about being straight up and down, but you couldn't see, so you tilt it to where you can see. Mm-hmm. Now, wherever you point, you want to go, and I don't care if you're left-handed or right-handed.
So you don't want to drag the head of the tool along, you want to sort of push it.
That's correct. You don't want to drag, you want to push, because what you're learning right now is TIG welding without filler material.
Okay.
Now, in a more advanced class, we're going to start adding filler, and you need to have that puddle in front of you. So you'll be dabbing at the front of the puddle. Dab, dab,
okay.
Dab. And that's all part of the technique.
But this works just with no filler or anything to start with something like this?
Correct. We've got 304 stainless here, and stainless welds very, very nicely. You can weld it autogenous, you can do a butt weld, you can do a lap weld with it, but eventually you're going to want to learn how to add filler. You're going to get into the fillet welds and the more difficult welds.
In what situation would it be called for to use that filler?
Well, most of the time you have gaps. So when you're fitting something up, it's not always a perfect fit.
Okay.
So adding filler is just the way of filling that gap.
So basically what I'm doing here is I'm just fusing the metal as I'm going along, the metal that's existing there.
Yes.
Rather than trying to add something like a filler.
Yeah, and there's a sequence to learn your skills. So we started off here, we did some tack welds and stringer passes and things like that. But stringers are probably the most important way to develop your skill.
Excellent. So where would I start if I was going to be practicing this technique?
Well, I would start with a flat plate. This is a 1/8 inch thick stainless. You can use steel. You can use any material that you've got just to practice doing the stringers.
And I would feel a lot more comfortable practicing and doing this now before I actually went out to try to weld something for real.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
This is actually my first time using the machine, so for me, practice is something I really think I need.
Well, now also keep in mind when you're doing your skills, you're learning how to weld, but you're not a welder yet. And one way to figure out whether you've got the skill or not is to do a fillet weld. And that'll tell you that you really need more practice.
Okay.
So that's why you
what am I looking for in that weld that's going to tell me one way or the other?
In a fillet weld, what's going to happen is, are you going to dip your tungsten down in the fillet?
Okay. That's something we want to avoid.
We want to avoid that. So I never recommend starting off on a fillet. Always recommend starting off on flat plate.
Okay. And then graduating up to like a fillet as you're talking about.
Yes.
So let's get started on this flat plate.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, Eric, you're going to want to get this tungsten very, very close, and in some cases you're actually touching. Anytime you're using a thumb control like this, the arc will initiate, but it'll only initiate if you're almost on the part. So,
well, didn't you tell me I can't touch it?
You can touch it. You can actually establish yourself where you're at, and then hit the button on the handle, and then just lift, and the arc will initiate.
Okay, and then once the arc's initiated, it'll just keep going?
Yes. Okay, so arc's initiating. Hit the button. Okay. Do you see the little puddle right there?
I do.
Okay. Make sure your eyes adjust to it, and then you can start moving. You can move very, very slow. There's no hurry in TIG welding.
So I'm just driving that puddle?
You are. You are. Now, the first part of TIG welding is actually welding autogenous, meaning you're not going to add filler right now. Later on, that's going to happen.
What was that flash just then?
There's a few contaminants that are in the material, and they kind of boil out.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's nothing I can make an adjustment for or whatever?
No, nothing major. The key is to see that liquid puddle. And yeah, I'm running probably somewhere between 5 and 8 inches a minute. So it's not a fast process, it's just a clean process.
What was the amp setting?
I had the amp set at about 70 amps. And I did that. I could probably give it a little more. And as soon as we finish training you on bead on plate, and that's the best way to get started. You can run hundreds of bead on plates just to get your skills down.
And what you have there is like what, like a 1/16 of an inch thick? Or?
It's actually about an 1/8 of an inch thick.
Okay.
So you may want to start on 1/8 inch and then get thinner and thinner and thinner. Now you can see I'm getting close to the end of the plate. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm getting close enough. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the arc. And I'm going to hold the torch in place. And there's actually argon flowing post-flow on that weld.
Okay.
And
so you're just going to leave it there so that way the gas continues to keep the weld clean?
It does, yeah. Yeah. So you can see that, it's a clean weld.
It's like a worm.
Yeah, there's very few oxides on there, and that's good as welded. You don't have to do any post-weld cleanup. You can if you want. If you want to brush that off, do it while it's hot, and that surface oxide will come off very quickly.
Okay.
Now we were talking about.
So when you say brush it off, I just take like a metal brush or something?
Yeah, you can take a wire brush, or you can take a power wire brush and
now, is
and
it
brush
also
it off.
important that brush is clean?
It is. If you've got a brush that's got a oil residue on it.
I was going to say, so I don't want to grab my old oily brush. I want to have something specifically for this.
You do, yes. Yeah, that's a good idea. So anyway, believe it or not, that happens to be stainless steel. Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't know the difference unless I told you, but you're getting ready to weld this, and you're going to see how clean it does weld. Okay. So it doesn't matter whether you get started with stainless steel or steel. Just get this technique down.
But practice would be the key here.
It is. Try not to do too difficult of a weld right off the bat.
Yeah, because welding is a skill. It's something it's acquired over time.
It is. It is. Now, I'm going to do a little more advanced, and I'd like for you to do hundreds of these.
Like right now?
Well, not right now, but
how much time do we have?
You're gonna do at least a few just to get started.
Okay.
But do hundreds of these, and then what I want to do is I want you to put a plate where you got two pieces together, and you'll probably notice that they're tack welded. Mm-hmm. Well, the reason for that is when you're welding, the material tries to warp and distort. So
yeah, I was looking at this plate here, and I could see that it moved a little bit. Yeah. Sort of bowed up.
Yeah. So go ahead and put a tack. You can put as many tacks as you want, but okay. For our purposes, I just put a few tacks in there, and I'm just going to melt the two materials together.
And the reason we do that is so that we don't warp it. If we did a continuous bead, the metal would not be in the same shape it was when we started welding.
That's correct. It's still going to warp a little bit, but
it won't be as much just because you're just doing those fine little tacks.
Exactly.
Also, if it's not quite in the position that you want it in, whip out the grinder and start over.
You can, yeah. You can break the tacks and reset, retap. You'll see a lot of the body fender guys do that a lot.
Okay.
So watch how I do this, and it's really the same technique. All I'm doing is making sure I'm following the line precisely.
So you're going to run the whole line, you're not going to tack?
I'm just going to, yeah, that's correct. I'm going to run about half of it just so you can see before and after.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I can actually hear that metal moving.
Yeah, stress is built up in it. Now, if you notice, I'm not weaving at all. You'll see a lot of guys use a technique called a weave pattern.
Yeah, they'll just sort of spiral it in.
Yeah, but you don't have a need to do that if your fit-ups are good.
So you can just go in a straight line. You don't have to sit there and move back and forth to try and...
Correct. Now there's some people, they like the weave pattern just because it puts on a cool pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that weave for you, and you can see that I can weave left, right, left, right.
So it's not a spiral, it's just a back and forth weave.
It's a back and forth. Some people do a figure 8, but truly there's no need for it.
So you could just run the straight line and you'd be perfectly fine with that.
Absolutely.
It's like you've been doing this a while, man.
Oh, I've got a few hours under my belt.
Do you?
Yeah, so you can see where I did different patterns.
Yeah, behind the spots.
Right.
In my eyes, that is.
Yeah. Yeah, so could you see that okay?
Yeah.
Could you see it clear?
Yeah, I can see it quite well.
And I tell you what, in TIG welding, there's really not a right or wrong. I mean, when you have a bad weld, you obviously did something incorrect as far as torch angle, or your gas ran out or something like that. But there's so many techniques out there that guys use, and as long as it works for them, that's fine. I can show you the nominal techniques how to get started.
Awesome.
Okay, you ready? You ready to try it?
Absolutely.
Okay. There you go.
You said you wanted me to do it right-handed, right? All right, so it's going to come down close, like you said, and I want to get that angle as close to up and down as possible, right?
Yes.
Close to perpendicular to the surface.
Yes.
And then to start, I may need to touch and then pull up after it starts to puddle.
As soon as you hit that button, it's a live arc. But it's okay on this particular setup to actually be touching.
Okay.
And so you hit the live arc and lift at the same time.
Okay. Let's give that a try.
All right, let's try it again.
I think I'm having trouble grounding.
Okay. Okay, do this. Before you hit the button, go ahead and touch.
Okay.
And lift at the same time.
At the same time I'm hitting the button?
Hit the button and lift, in that order. All right, try it again. We're not grounding very good. There you go. A little bit closer. There you go, right there. Perfect.
Got it.
Okay, now your arc voltage is controlled by that distance.
Okay.
So if you have a real close arc, you're going to have 9 volts. If you have quite a distance between that, it'll increase to like 14, 15, 16 volts.
That's like you said, you don't really go fast. You just sort of walk it along.
Yeah, and you know what? You can actually overrun your puddle. All right.
Okay.
Right now, I see a liquid puddle there. I see a nice, smooth, steady speed.
Yeah, it's like pushing a little BB of like kind of fun. I was just expecting more noise.
Yeah, it's so quiet and so clean. You're looking good. You're looking real good.
Speed's good.
Yeah, it looks like you're right on. get about an inch before you're at the end of the plate.
Okay.
And so all you'll have to do is let off the button when you see the edge of the plate.
Okay. Oh. My sleeve is starting to slip. There it is.
Well, we got a little close. That's the contamination I was talking about.
I get it.
Now the arc will continue. You can continue to weld. You just won't have as control of puddle.
I had to lift my elbow up. I guess the plan is to know where you're going to have your arc before you get started, maybe?
It is, yes.
All right, I'm going to stop.
There you go.
Leave it there for a little bit for that gas.
Few seconds, and look at your weld.
That's really cool.
You say you have never TIG welded?
Never.
That's great.
Never. I had a great instructor.
Well, I don't know about that. You've got some hidden talents.
Perhaps. Yeah. But yeah, fun. I love it. It's just, how come mine looks more discolored than yours did? Is that because I was going slower?
Probably going a little bit slower.
Because if I look at yours and the ones that you've done, you don't have that same discoloration that I do.
No, it really is heat input. And,
Okay.
you know, I was straight up and down, and I did have a little bit faster travel speed than you.
Okay.
But there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. Something I can be proud of?
Absolutely.
Excellent. There you go, Eric the Car Guy fan. Something you can be proud of. So what's next?
Okay, what I thought I'd do is I'd set you up with this plate.
All right, now part of me wants to actually pull as I'm making this weld. Now, is that the right thing to do, or?
Well, the correct way, and it doesn't matter whether you're going left to right, right to left, even if you're going vertical up, whatever direction you point is the direction that you go.
So I want to go in the direction that I don't want to, I mean, a part of me wants to pull this along, but I really should be pushing it.
That's correct.
So I'm actually pushing it into the weld?
Yes.
Kind of thing?
Yeah, because later on you're going to be adding filler material.
Okay.
This is the first part of the segment.
Phase one.
Yeah.
But also what I found the last time when I was doing the weld was that I got to like halfway and then my arm was in a bad position and I didn't want to stop the arc.
Yeah.
So I was just sort of stuttering a little bit.
You were. What happens is you put a lot of weight on the palm of your hand, and then you get stuck.
Okay.
So kind of balance your weight and make sure that you can slide all the way.
So I can just hover
Yeah.
over.
Just a light guide.
Well, also it seems helpful just to sort of map it out before I actually do the weld, just to see if I've got.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing a dry run is perfect.
A dry run.
Yeah.
Just to sort of get an idea in my mind of where I'm going.
Yep.
So is it time to join these pieces of metal?
I think we've got a butt weld here. Let's see if you can do it.
I can hear the comments now. Oh, it's too far. Smash my nose. Oh, forgot. Ah, I had it.
There you go. Okay, you're right on the seam. Slow down a little bit. Slow down a little bit. You're okay. You're doing great. Doing great. Keep that same steady arc, same speed. Make sure you stay in line. There you go. Now you're back on line.
All right, there it is.
Okay.
I couldn't quite see it, honestly. I might have to try those cheater glasses.
It's all right. You got a good steady speed. Don't overrun your puddle. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Keep your voltage down. There you go. Okay, there you go. It's melting. Okay, that's nice and steady. I can see the puddle. Is it nice and clear for you?
Yeah, it is actually.
Okay.
I just can tell where it went off course there a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And it, I mean, if you get going too fast, you'll see where you did it. Okay, that's probably a good place to stop right there.
All right. Well, my first weld of a butt joint. No jokes. So what do you think? I mean, looking at this, is there something I could do better, or where could I use more practice, or what? Basically, on what you saw me do, where could I make improvement?
Well, actually, you did pretty good. In the beginning, you were adjusting your eyes, and I could see nice fusion here, and then you got really confident. And you got confident. Well, your travel speed picked up, so you overran your puddle, and you had to reestablish your puddle. And once you got it right here, for the next 3 inches, you did very, very well.
Oh, cool.
That's in the learning process, and that's your first weld joint.
So practice is pretty much going to be the key as far as doing this type of welding, doing TIG welding.
It is. Once you've got the setup in place and the machine in place, the gas at the right setting, what you did right here, you need to do this 50 times. Okay. And you'll find yourself getting better and better very quickly.
So what, I just grab scrap pieces of metal, things like that, and just keep trying and trying until I've got, some proficiency with it?
Yeah, anything that you have in metal. Because first of all, what you're trying to do is you're trying to balance your hand, make sure you don't have too much weight on it, and be able to slide.
Yeah, that was really helpful, because when I was doing that first one, I noticed that I got partway through and I started to stutter, and it's just like you said, I had my weight on my hand, and that didn't allow me to do that clean movement. And the other thing that was helpful to me was doing that dry run, just to see, okay, if I'm going to start here, or if I'm going to start here and go here, just to sort of feel out in my mind where I was supposed to go, so that I didn't get to a point and I was kind of stuck.
Yeah, that's a great technique.
Okay, that's actually very helpful information, at least for me. But yeah, I think I'm going to go out and start playing with this some more.
Well, that's about it for TIG time. I want to thank EricTheCarGuy for joining us. Thanks, Eric.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time. I'm Mr. TIG.